pointed out to me by a very astute young man earlier that we should have called tonight Nerd Nite 5 Squared, because it was Lucius right back there, because 125, there you go, that would have been perfectly nerdy. What? Cube, sorry, Cube. See, it's a team effort. I appreciate everybody's contribution to making me look really, really bad. We're so excited to have all of y'all here this evening. A quick question though, is anybody here who's never been to a Nerd Night before? Oh, I got some hands. That's always very exciting. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We do this every month, so we're always excited to add to the crew. Well, you might be wondering, asking yourself right there as you sit at Maceli's, what the heck have I gotten myself into? Well, fortunately, we're going to give you the quickest little primer on what the heck that is. Nerd Nite is the brainchild of a gentleman named Chris Christian, who we affectionately refer to as Nerd Zero. Chris was hanging out with his friends in Boston at the Midway Cafe, and his friends started to notice that he loved to talk about all of the research that he was doing in Cameroon on the indigo bird. And as Nerd Zero was talking about his research that he was doing in Cameroon on the indigo bird, his friends started to notice this pattern. And so all his friends got together and said, Chris, if we all agree to get together one night and sit down and you can tell us all about your research, will that get it off of your chest? Thus, the first Nerd Night was born. That's right. And from there, all the way back in 2003, we have seen it fly all over the world. It's one of my favorite PowerPoint transitions, by the way. But you will see well over 100 Nerd Nights going active at any particular time. We started all the way back in 2011 and could not be more thrilled about it. This is 125. That means that we have done 124 of these over time, and every single one of them is the best one that we've ever done, and I expect tonight to be absolutely no different. My name is Jason Keyser. I'm one of the co-bosses here at Nerd Nite Lawrence, and of course no one person can ever do this alone. And so you ran into some of our other co-bosses, Brian Moss right back there, who you will recognize from his time up here when he comes and does a presentation all about Route 66. You saw Courtney Shipley. She sold you an entry and a raffle ticket to get in. If you didn't see Courtney, make sure you see us during the break, because we want to make sure we get you set up with raffle tickets so you can win one of our fabulous prizes. And unable to make it tonight is our other co-boss, Governor Laura Kelly. No, sorry, that's Will Averill with Governor Laura Kelly, and he wasn't able to make it tonight. If you want to follow us online, you can do so at all of our variety of social medias. We're on Blue Sky, we're on Threads, we are kind of on Discord. We're looking for some other venues as well. And if you want to avail yourself of the free Wi-Fi that Maceli's has been gracious enough to provide us, you can jump on their Wi-Fi, Maceli's guest, with the unhackable password, Catering with a capital C. So you got that to look forward to. You're also right on the precipice, not next month, but coming up in July, we have one of our favorite Nerd Nights of the year, which is Summer Shorts. Tonight you're going to see 3 20-minute presentations. In July, we power through 23-minute presentations. That's right, if you know a little bit about a lot of something or a lot about a little bit of something, Summer Shorts is for you. You will notice that we've handed out sheets on the table. So if you want to provide your information there, you can do that, and we'll be more than happy to host you for our Summer Shorts coming up on July 8th. And honestly, if you have any questions about Summer Shorts, or if you're not sure what you would want to present on, you can provide us your email address and we'll make sure you get in the loop. That is not a legally binding contract, despite what I'm sure Courtney has told you. That's just a way for us to stay in touch with you. So if you want to ask any questions about that, please feel free to ask any questions or share your information there. We'll make sure we get back to you as quick as we can. We do have some fabulous prizes, and you'll see those at the back table back there as well. You can also hit us up during the breaks to make sure if you have any questions about Nerd Nite, or you want to sign up for presenting, we'll get you set up with that as well. And we always want to give a huge shout out and gratitude towards Maceli's for catering, or for providing the space here to do this every single month. Nate's back there somewhere, but make sure you take care of him this evening, and we're always excited to have the space to do that. But without further ado, I think it is time that we launch into our first presentation of the evening, and with that, I'm going to bring up Mike Lawless. He graduated from the KU School of Engineering with a bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering. And a couple of fun facts about Mike. He loves classic cars and going to car shows. He has a 1965 Dodge Dart GT Charger. It's the cherry red one, somewhere out
way down the end.
Way down that way. So on break, if you want to catch an eyeful of a beautiful, Dart, that is the way to do it. And another fun fact, he once helped his nephews build a hoverboard with plywood and a leaf blower. I'm kind of wishing you were talking about that, but that's okay. I'm excited to hear your presentation here. And with that, I'm going to clumsily pull up your presentation while you get started a little bit. Tell them a little about yourself. Yay!
All right. Can y'all hear me okay? All right. Well, in addition to graduating from KU, I work for the city of Lawrence right now. And one of the areas that I work in is solid waste. And with that, looks like I'm ready to go. So we are endeavoring and working to complete a solid waste master plan. I could not find when the last time we had a solid waste master plan had been done. I think it was pre-1995. And a lot has changed since 1995 to now, and we thought it would be a good idea to kind of have a master plan to figure out like where we're going, what we want to do, how are we doing with what we do today, and what might we want to do different in the future. And so we started with in late 2024 with working on our master plan. And so tonight I kind of stole some slides from some of we're not done with the master plan, but I kind of stole some slides, put them together, and thought I could do a little bit of talking about trash. And thank you for having me here tonight. So with that, here's my agenda, but basically it's kind of like what I said. We haven't done one in a while. The city's grown quite a bit. We've changed. We've added single stream recycling. We do cardboard pickup. We have yard waste. We have a landfill that has a finite space in it. We want to make sure that lasts us for a long period of time. And so one of the things that we were interested in as part of the master plan is how do we preserve as much of that space as we can, and how do we make it last as long as we can. So that was kind of one of the major features that we had. So we put out an RFP, and through that process we selected Burns & McDonnell Engineering to help us put together a master plan for solid waste. So tonight I'm going to give you just a real quick overview of some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we found out, and kind of maybe where we're headed with some of the recommendations that we think we'll end up presenting to the City Commission sometime later this year. So kind of as I said, the purpose was to evaluate our residential, multifamily, commercial, and our roll-off services. Are we doing it efficiently? Are there things we could do better? How do we become more efficient than we are today? Take a look at our current ordinances, and basically, are there any alternative models or things that we ought to have that we don't have? How do we divert waste? How do we reuse? How do we reduce? And how do we recycle so that we send less to the landfill and find some other way to repurpose or reuse the things that people throw away? How do we meet the needs of the community as it begins to grow? If you've heard, there's some annexation requests out to west of K10, some on the north side of town. How do we make sure that we're in a position to be able to serve those, either with the people and the equipment that we have today, or how do we set ourselves up to have triggers or know when it's time to say, I need more equipment, I need more people, so that we're able to provide that service. And then basically, how do we become, or how do we do, is there ways to do better at being environmental stewards for what we have? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is kind of our waste diversion and generation. And the first slide I have is how much waste did the city collect in 2024? Does anybody have a guess? How much waste did we collect? That's yard waste, recycling, trash, roll-off materials from construction. Anybody got a guess? In tons, yes.
3 million.
3 million. A little less than that. How many? 2.5?
10.
47.
All right, let me show you what it is. So if you look at that bottom number there, we generated, and what we picked up was 94,000, almost 500 tons of material. And the graph on, I'm going to say that side, the blue graph, that shows what services that we collected it from. So we did residential is about 40%, commercial is about 35%, and then our roll-off service is about 23%. The other graph is the same amount, it's just what was in that material. So about 69% is trash, about 8% is recyclables, about 23% is yard waste. So yay for us, we're collecting a lot of yard waste, keeping that out of the landfill, and we have compost facility where people can come pick that up and reuse it. So we've done really well there. And then household hazardous waste and e-waste make up a very small percentage of what we collect. So one of the things that we focus on is recycling is at 8%. How do we do better? And really for us, we only do single stream recycling on the residential side. We don't have single stream or recycling services so much for the commercial side. So that was one of the things that we kind of wanted to look at. Here's just another way to look at that. And this particular one is just single family and multifamily. So you can see kind of that split. About 60% is trash, a little over 60% is trash. 15% is recycling, and about 23% yard waste. And again, we're kind of focusing on that. 38% is what we're diverting away from the landfill, and we want to get better at that. How do we bring that number higher so that we use less of that landfill space? And then here's the commercial side. So commercial side, they can bring in yard waste and material from some landscape companies and other commercial entities, and you see the recycling is very small, and that's really just our cardboard. We have a cardboard program, and so that's really what you're seeing on the commercial side. And one of the things that we wanted to look at is how do we do better, how do we get more out of the commercial side, and what options or what things are available to us. So now that we get away from kind of what we collected, it's how do we collect it. And so we asked Burns and McDonald to come in and kind of follow our operators, our drivers around and look at how we collect things and give us their observations and tell us, like, what did they see, what do they think we're doing well, what do they think we can do better at to help us become more efficient and do a better job. So on the single family residential side, we do pretty good at the pickup of the trash and the recycling, but our bulky waste, so that's when people set out couches and refrigerators, and we're getting ready for move in, move out of all the students that are here. That starts in about a week when we see kind of that first move out period, and then we have another bigger period at the end of July and the first part of August. And one of the things they said is we're very, I don't know, very, that's probably a harsh word, but we're not very efficient in how we do bulky collection. We have a way that people are supposed to sign up for it online, but we haven't done a very good job of getting that information out. And basically, if it's out, we collect it. And if we can get to a sign up, they think that will help us be more efficient and more cognizant of what we're doing and do better at keeping track of what we do. On the commercial side and multifamily side, it's really about the enclosures. If we want to have more service, if we want to do single stream on the commercial side, or we want to do more on recycling with multifamily, it's really about our enclosure space. They're pretty small. They pretty much fit the trash enclosures or the trash dumpsters that are in there. But if we want to add, say, single stream recycling, there may not be room in a lot of those enclosures. And so that's one of the challenges that we have on the commercial side. Another thing that we did with the master plan was we said, hey, what is in the trash that we're throwing away? Like, what's in it? How do we know what we have, what we could potentially divert away? And the only way to do that is to collect trash and figure out what's in it. So that's what we did. We did a waste characterization study. We collected 48 samples of trash and recycling from single family, multifamily, commercial. We did recycling and trash. We collected about 7,500 pounds, and we selected 41 different material categories, and we went through every bit of that 7,600 pounds and separated it into one of 41 categories. And you can see the folks in that picture, that's what they were doing, was they were sorting that trash. And so what we found out is, and this particular graph is just from the trash, it doesn't include recycling. And then we said, well, what's in the trash that people throw away? And again, this is single family, multifamily, and commercial kind of all together. And what we found is that there's almost 40% organics. That's food, whether it's packaged or unpackaged, and compostable type materials that are being thrown away. And that ends up in the landfill. And that can take up a considerable amount of space. The other thing that we found is there's about 19% paper, 15% plastics. So if you look at that, there is almost 75% of what we throw away is in those three material categories. So the graph on the other side is, if we look at that material and say, well, what could we divert, what could we either compost, recycle, not recycle, or find some other way to get rid of it, what would we see? So in this particular case, almost 40% of what's in the trash could be diverted into a compostable type operation. About 37% is not, it's trash. It's not recyclable, it's not compostable, it's trash that needs to go to the landfill. The other thing we found is, in the trash, there's almost 19% of what people throw away in the trash could go in the recycle bin. And so that's on us to do a better job of how do we educate people about what to throw away and what to put in their recycle bin. And I have another little story about that I'll tell you in just a minute. And then we have the white goods, so that would be like refrigerators, air conditioners, washing machines, that kind of thing, and then e-waste and household hazardous waste. So that 40% organics is like, that's one of the things that we go, hey, that could be low-hanging fruit, something that we could get hold of and maybe find a way to make a difference. The other one is paper, because a lot of that is either compostable or recyclable. Then we look at what did we find in the recycled material that we collected. So almost 70% of what ends up in the recycle bin is paper products, which is great. We have end users that will buy that, and so that's a good thing. Glass is very heavy, so it made up about 11.5%, almost 12%, and then plastics is about 10.5%. Then in recycling, we have a contamination rate, and when we take our material to the material recovery facility that Ham, well now it's Republic, operates, we have to be cognizant of how much trash is in that. And what we found is we have about 15% in the single family recycling that we pick up that is contaminated. It could be things that aren't acceptable at that. It could actually be trash. Some people, we found mower decks in the recycle bins. We found like propane tanks, balloon helium tanks are in there. You find all kinds of things that, we had a trampoline one time. Somebody threw a trampoline in their recycle bin. And twice a year, we go with the ham folks and we do an audit, and that's how we determine what materials, because we can't determine every time we take a load, like, because it's commingled with the other recyclers in the area, we can't tell what's Lawrence's and how much of what type of material goes there. So twice a year, we do an audit where we collect material, they set it aside, and then we spend one day and we run that material through the facility, and we separate it all out, and we agree that that's for the next 6 months until the next audit. That's what all the material that we bring, that's how it will be separated by percentage, whether it's plastics, aluminum cans, steel cans, paper. So anyway, that's how that works. And once we get over 10% contamination, we get a penalty. So we get a $7.50 a ton penalty once we go over 10%. And if we go over 15%, we get another $7.50 a ton. And we just completed our spring 2026 audit, and we were at 17% contamination. So, and we put that out, we try to do press releases and let folks know, like, hey, this is what we found. This is what was in the recycling that got to that contamination rate. And a lot of times people think they're doing the right thing. If they have a TV box, they'll stuff that TV box with other boxes, with paper, with cans, with everything. Well, the thing is, when that gets to the recycle facility, they don't have time to empty that box out and make sure it is what it is. So it needs to be loose. It needs to be in the way that it was. We shouldn't pack things together. We call it nesting, and that, you know, or people put it in a plastic bag. They think, oh, well, I'm going to put it in a bag and I'll just throw the bag in my recycle bins. Once it does that, it becomes trash, because they don't have time to slit open the bag and dump it out as it's coming down the conveyor belt. So anyway, those are things that we have to do better. We have to get our education game way better than what we're doing if we're gonna get that down. But I will say that we are as good or better than the national average when it comes to contamination of our recyclables. Some cities, they're in the 25 to 30% range, so we feel pretty good about that. Paper is one of the things that we see in there, and paper is not just paper, but it's cardboard. So think about Amazon and all the deliveries that everybody gets and all the cardboard boxes that are out there. And we like cardboard. We actually have cardboard for our commercial customers, and if you walk downtown in any of the alleys, or as you walk through the breezeways there and you look, you'll see those green dumpsters out there. Those are cardboard only, and those are already separated because it's only for cardboard. So when we take that out to the MRF, they take that and they just run it right to their baler. So that's a material that we think we could up our game on cardboard and make a better dent in what we're doing with recycling. How am I doing on time?
You're good.
I'm good, all right. Part of our master plan was community engagement, not just like what do we do and what do we think and what do we see, but what does the community think about what we do. So we sent out a survey with a ETC over in Olathe, I believe that's where they're at. So they do a statistically valid survey where they send it out to residents all over town, and they make sure the responses they get back meet the demographics of the city and areas of the city. We got 330 responses, and 88% of those were for single family, about 9% for multifamily, and 3% from others. And the topics that we asked about were trash and recycling, disposal practices. What did they think about food management? How would we deal with food waste at a residential level? We asked them about bulky item collection and how would they like to do that? And then what would they think about drop-off programs for food waste, compost, and and other e-waste. We also did workshops with food service industry where we invited some folks down and talked to us about the restaurants and how they deal with food waste and some of the other issues they have with recycling, whether it's glass or cardboard. We did some special interest groups. We also did a commercial sector group. We talked to the school district, and then we talked to Republic, who took over. They bought out the Hams landfill and the recycling facility. And so we got some really good information from that, and we'll be able to incorporate those things in the final recommendations that we make to the commission. I talked a little bit about compost. Has anybody been to the compost facility? So you know at the wastewater plant where we're at, we have about a 4-acre pad there, and that pad is full to the brim. If you've been, you know what I'm talking about. And so what we wanted to look at was, how do we expand that capacity? What would we need to look 20 years in the future? How do we deal with the material that we're taking today, but if we want to take, say, food waste, and pick that up or have people drop it off, and incorporate that into some of the compost and do it on site, how big of a facility would we need? And so they kind of went through some analysis with us, and they did some calculations, and this is what one concept that we put together. This is on a piece of property that the city owns just north of the farmland property off of 1500 Road. It's about 30 acres, and that pad site, I don't know, can you see where the cursor is there? That pad site there is almost 14 acres. So if you think about now, we have roughly 4, maybe 4.5 acres on our pad site. This is 14 acres. It would allow us to have better traffic circulation, better stacking. It would give us the ability to have some scale so we could weigh people as they come in and come out. As you can imagine, this is a rather spendy facility to put 14 acres of concrete out there. And so that's one of the things that we're working on right now is, how can we pay for something like that? How do we, does that raise our rates a whole lot? Does it raise our rates a little bit? Does it not do anything to our rates? How do we fund something like that? So that's the part of the plan that we're in now, is kind of that financial analysis. And then finally, and I'll wrap up here, is just kind of some of the big broad goals that we have. The first one, kind of what we started out with, is how do we increase the diversion away from the landfill to get to at least 50% by 2030. I don't know if we'll make that or not, but I think that's a good goal. You saw we were about 38% right now. I think if we can figure out how to deal with food waste and maybe some cardboard, more cardboard, I think we have a potential to get there. The other one is, how do we improve the operational efficiency? So you kind of saw they had some recommendations about bulky waste. How do we do a better job, be more efficient at collecting that? And so we have some ideas about that. Maintaining a recycling contamination rate below 10% to provide the maximum efficiency in our costs. And that's really on us to develop a good educational program so that we can get out and get in front of folks like you and say, hey, we can do better. And then finally, how do we be prepared to meet the future demands of material collection in the city? And that's kind of the end. And if you've got questions, I went through that pretty fast. And you may have other things that I didn't think about, but
thank you so much, Mike. Big round of applause for that. Then we are going to open up the floor for public comment. You will each get 3 minutes. I apologize, I rarely get a chance to make a city commission show. Here we go.
I have 2 questions. One, I'd like to know what to do with my food waste.
okay. Right now, the city does not offer food waste. There are some services in Kansas City that do that. And I think there are a few restaurants in town that do that, but at this point, I don't have a way to do that, or a way for you to do that, other than there's a couple of places in Kansas City that might come here, but I think.
You know, a long time ago, some years ago, the Merck had like people who were coming from Kansas City, and it cost $6 a week, well, $6 a 5-gallon bucket.
Right.
It was hard lugging that around. Now I'm on a fixed income, so it's going in the trash. I hate that. I hate putting it in a plastic bag, you know, and then
Yep.
the plastic bag goes to the landfill. And it's something that I'm struggling with, and I would like to be able to do something so maybe the city could have, like, they provide my trash can, maybe
Yes.
they could provide a.
And that's one of the things that we're looking at in the financial analysis now is I don't have trucks for that. Well, I might, but it's how do I work in with the services that I provide? How do I work in a way to pick up food waste? And then what would I have to charge so that I can actually continue to do that? And that's one of the things that we're in the process of looking at.
Well, how much do we spend at 7 or 15%?
So right now, it costs me about $41 a ton to tip at the landfill. And it costs me about $85 a ton to tip at the MRF. And so that's one of the things I gotta figure out.
Appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. I'll come back around.
Hi,
I'm just gonna talk, because I talk loud.
okay.
You stopped collecting shredded paper, we would put it in clear plastic bags, and you would pick that up and then recycle. We can no longer do that, what do we do with it?
It can't be shredded. So when the MRF was originally, when they set up that process, they said they thought they could take shredded paper. And what happens is when that first goes in, there's a big drum that has claws on it that basically break apart all of the material that gets dumped on the conveyor belt. And what happens is that material that's shredded falls through and ends up in their trash, in their floor as trash. And so they did it for almost 10 years, and then they're like, we can't do it anymore, and so that's why we had to stop that. So Iron Mountain or somebody like that, or somebody that, you know, if there's a bank or somebody that does a shredding event, that's pretty much what we have.
I got a question, kind of a follow-up on the food issue. Where does the city stand on pizza boxes? Because Lawrence is famously a pizza town.
Yes, pizza boxes are okay if you don't leave big globs of food in it. Grease on the bottom is just fine, but if you leave the crust and uneaten pieces and actual food in the box, I can't take it. But if it's just a stained, and that's one of the things that they found out from the cardboard people that they resell to, is they're willing to take the cardboard with a little bit of grease in the bottom. So what I always say is, if you scrape off the cheese, you can throw the whole box away. Just don't throw your crust, don't leave food in there.
It's my understanding some of that research actually happened at KU, so.
That very well could be.
And then another question on that is, how much of the plastic that's going into the actual waste stream is film that could be recycled by taking it down?
We do not take film at the MRF.
Right, but the grocery stores do. I currently say probably 10 or 15 pounds a month of the stuff.
Right. And honestly, I don't know where the grocery stores and others might take that. When ham was purchased by Republic has 2 plastic facilities in the country, and they're working on a 3rd one. And we think there might be some ways where we can expand some of the plastic materials that we'll take at the MRF. They haven't told us yet that they're willing to do that, but they've sort of hinted that as they open up some of these other plastic facilities, there might be some other materials that they can take. So we're kind of in a wait and see right now on that. Go ahead, way in the back. Thank you.
We need a sign or something to tell those people they need to break down those boxes so we can recycle and not fill up our landfill.
That's one of the things that we're, I think in our educational piece, apartments and the commercial cardboard are some areas where we could do better, and I think that's one of the educational things that we will be working on.
One more, if you don't mind, Mike, over here.
Sure.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for the great presentation. I also had a question about apartment complexes. I was kind of wondering where they fall under, I guess, category-wise of these various like single-family home. And then if your apartment doesn't have recycling, how the city is partnering with apartment complexes throughout the city to encourage recycling programs.
So we do kind of have an outreach program for the apartment complexes, and if you look on the table below you there, we have some bags and cups that we're taking to the apartment complexes. The bags is an attempt to hopefully get people to be able to separate their recyclables, put them in the bag so that they can take them down to the trash enclosure and put what's recyclable in the recyclable side and what's trash in the trash side. And if your apartment complex doesn't have recycling, have them reach out to us if they're interested, and we'd be happy to talk to them about getting them set up.
Thank you, Mike. That's about all the time I have.
All right.
As you can see, people still have a lot of questions. If you don't mind hanging out a
I
little
will.
while and talking to people.
Sure.
I know from the past I've had solid waste come to other meetings of mine, and I think there's more questions and more passion about recycling than any of us predict. So by all means, ask him the questions while he's here, and everyone give him a round of applause.
We'll take a break.
I'd like to get in one plug, and that is don't wish recycle. And by that, I mean, don't put it in the recycle bin just because you think it ought to be recyclable. If you don't know, go to our website, go to the solid waste piece, and we have a link that will take you, and you can say, is this recyclable, whatever it is, and if it is, we'll tell you it goes in your blue bin. If it isn't, we'll tell you if there's a service local in town or somewhere else where you might be able to get rid of those. So that's my plug. Thank you.